Hello, everyone. My name is Muhammad Khan. I'm one of the board members of Penn TESOL East. I have another colleague, another board members with me, Leslie Greenlee. I welcome everyone. Uh, Thank you, everyone, for joining this conversation today. And I would request everyone to mute themselves. And let me introduce the speaker for today. Before I introduce her, I just want to share my understanding with you on how important a work they have been doing in United States. When immigrants come, they need to be integrated into the society. So new immigrants who have language barrier in English, they need English to do their lives and to do their jobs and to be integrated into the society. And Eliana has been engaged with this field for quite some time. So this is an extremely important work that they do for new immigrants and for current nationals of America. They help people communicate. So is that kind of important job that they have been doing. So let me introduce formally to the presenter. Eliana Stanislawski is the adult ESL coordinator and citizenship instructor coordinator at HIAS Pennsylvania. In this role, they provide virtual English language instruction and write curricula for refugee and immigrant clients. Previously, Eliana served as Family Literacy Academic Coordinator at the Nationality Service Center, where they ran virtual English and parent enrichment courses for pre-literate adult refugees. This Nationality Center is a very famous place, is a very well-known place in Philadelphia. They also have education experience with Norris Square Community Alliance, the Free Library of Philadelphia, Worcester State University Urban Action Institute, the Worcester Adult Learning Center, and the Worcester Refugee Assistance Project. They hold a BA in International Relations and Social Development and Social Change, hold a BA in International Development and Social Change from Clark University, and an MS in Education in TESOL from Temple University. So please welcome Eliana Stanislawski. Thank you, Eliana, for joining. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your generous introduction. I feel very fortunate to be here today. Again, my name is Eliana Stanislawski, and today I will be talking about how to provide higher quality instruction for pre-literate adult English language learners in a virtual environment. I do have a kitten who's running around like crazy, so if she makes an appearance, I apologize. Hopefully it's at least entertaining for you. As was requested at the start of the call, please try to mute yourselves unless we're in breakout rooms. And also it can help the bandwidth of the call if you turn your video off as well. I'll be taking questions at the end. I'm going to try my best to leave a full 10 minutes for that. So if you do have questions, you can hold them until the end. So as was said earlier, currently I work at HIAS Pennsylvania. In my role there, I work with a number of beginning literacy students. And previously, I worked with a population of pre-literate learners at the Nationality Service Center, several of whom had little or no spoken English skills as well. Before I begin delving into my topic, I wanted to learn a little bit more about the people who are here today. So using your Zoom hand raising tool, I would love to see some hands raised for those of you who have any experience or maybe are currently working with pre-literate adults. So I'll give you some time to raise your hand. Oh, I see one person. I know you. Hi, Rachel. Anybody else? Can you raise your hand if you've had any experience working with adults who might be considered pre-literate? Okay, I see another hand. I'll give you all one more minute. Great. Awesome. I'm a teacher, so I know how to wait. Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you so much. It seems like a lot of us are new to this, which is really exciting for me because that means we can all brainstorm together and we can work together to develop some strategies. So let's get started with the presentation. Before I talk to you about my experience, I want to hear some of your thoughts. So can I have a volunteer to read this scenario to the class? Who can read this to the class? I see one hand is raised, but I think it might be a holdover. Rachel, are you volunteering?
Eliana, my screen is black, like not.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think you have a window blocking the text.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Can you see now?
Almost that long. There you go. Yeah. And now I would be happy to read for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You are teaching an online English course for adults. You have a new student who does not speak English, who cannot read or write in their first language, and whose language is not able to be translated in the moment using applications like Google Translate. They are joining your class from their smartphone. How do you connect with this learner? What do you avoid?
Thank you so much for reading, Rachel. So I'm going to give you a little under 10 minutes in breakout rooms to discuss this scenario, and then we'll return. I'll pop through into your breakout rooms to say hello. But does anybody have any questions before we go into small groups? No. Okay. Well, good luck, everybody. I'll see you in a bit. You should all be moving into your rooms. And Mac, we can pause the recording, right? Until. Great. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good time in your breakout rooms. I'd love to hear from maybe one or two people who can share just like one or two sentences about what you discussed. Who wants to share? You can just start.
Anyway, I was a bit late. So
That's
what you're
okay.
going to discuss?
That's okay. We can hear from somebody from one of the breakout rooms. Does anybody want to share what you discussed in the breakout rooms? How would you help this student?
Well,
In our breakout room. Oh, go ahead. So go ahead.
no.
We can do Leah and then Rachel.
Oh, just, okay. What we talked about is using breakout rooms and having, perhaps pairing the student with someone who speaks his or her own language, possibly. Another one is the use of photographs to help and have the student understand the basic vocabulary, like nouns or whatever.
That's
Okay.
an excellent idea.
All right, Rachel, what do you think?
Now, what were you going to say?
We also talked about the power of images. We also talked about exaggerated movements and using body language and sign language, some version of sign language. And also the importance of smiling and making a safe space so people feel really comfortable.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I see one more hand is raised. Do you want to share? You're muted, Mohammed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel and I and other students were in the same group. Yes. Thank you for updating. We also, I personally think loving your student is probably the strongest connection between your student and you. So loving your student is a strong thing. And what that means, Rachel elaborated, creating safe environment for everybody. So yeah, smile, image, dramatic, and all these things. But yes, we don't have to forget the element of love.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I wish that we had time to hear from everybody. And some of the things you shared, I will be touching on today, and some of them we won't have time for. So I'm really glad that you all shared a little bit about what you discussed. Thank you so much. All right, I'm just going to mute everyone and get started here. So first, I'd love to just quickly define our terms. So who exactly are preliterate adult learners? Well, generally, a preliterate adult is considered to be somebody with limited or no contact with print in their native languages. This may be because they never had access to a literacy education, or it may be because their native languages are not written. Often, preliterate learners are placed in the same adult education classrooms as semi-literate or literate beginners and are just expected to catch up. This has been confirmed by studies in adult education classrooms where many preliterate learners reported feeling extremely alienated both by their instructor and their classmates. And I can also confirm that I've seen this happening in my experience in a variety of beginner adult ed classrooms. The learning environment can also be really stressful for individuals who have never had exposure to a classroom as maybe I understand a classroom, and are instead culturally equipped to learn in other ways where I might be weak, like visually or through oral history. And yet 32% of adult ESL students in the United States fall into this category. So this cohort of learners has received some attention from theorists and educators, but not enough, and especially not enough when it comes to a virtual learning environment. When teaching, I try to ground my practice in theory. And so when teaching adult preliterate learners online, these are some of the theories that I draw on. First, I keep in mind that my students may have a high effective filter. This is especially relevant given my teaching context, focusing on refugees and asylum seekers. However, many preliterate adults may come from complex backgrounds and also may have limited access to formal education in their past. So kind of like some of you shared, providing a warm, caring, safe environment is paramount when supporting this group. I also tried to provide lots of social context in my lessons. The greater the purpose and utility of the lessons being reviewed are, makes it even more important to the learner, and that has to be communicated to them. I tried to uplift my students' funds of knowledge. You know, my students have so many gifts to share, and rather than viewing their literacy levels through a deficiency mindset, it's critical to celebrate and uplift what they are bringing to the classroom, which is often quite a lot. And finally, I try to balance bottom-up and top-down reading instruction, because in order to learn most effectively for these adults, it's important that they're both learning about the mechanisms of literacy as well as overarching meaning making. So you're doing phonics and literacy, but you're also thinking about oral language and chunking and meaning, and that kind of needs to be taught simultaneously and balanced out. So when it comes to learning online, there's a lot less literature available than when it just comes to teaching preliterate adults. So a lot of what I do is kind of just cobbled together from experience, from research, and from mentors I've had the privilege of working with. Obviously, a lot of us have no choice. During the pandemic, pretty much everything went online, so many learners had no other option. But also a lot of programs continue to learn online. I know the program that I'm teaching in is still online right now. A lot of them are learning on their mobile phones. I know a lot of you are probably joining from your mobile phones today. So while some programs are able to lend out computers or laptops, most of them can't. And in my experience, even when computers are lent out, they aren't always used. Some students will just say, I don't know how to use it. Some students will give it to their children so that their children can work on schoolwork, or, you know, there's a variety of other reasons why the computers don't always get used. And the final thing that we do is repeating everything. This is already a really big part of preliterate instruction, you know, having solid routines and repeating content. But in an online context where everything is unfamiliar, it's even more important. So I am going to demonstrate some of the practical adaptations I've made to my virtual classroom, but I just want to review them first. The first thing, and also you can do this not just on Zoom. I know a lot of us here are teaching on Facebook Messenger, or we're teaching on WhatsApp. These can be used in all of these different mediums. The first thing that I do is I try to limit the amount of slides that I do use. The more FaceTime that you can get with your students, the better, right? They can already barely see you when you're screen sharing, like you can barely see me. And if you're using text on your slides, they can't read it usually. So it's really important to build that relationship as much as you can face-to-face. Some of you pointed out the importance of visuals. When the slides are in use, I had tried to have them be highly image-based and also have the images be very, very big. Also, culturally, this is how many of your students may be used to learning. I try to have accessible slides. So when I say accessible slides, there's a few different things I mean. First thing is that they're high contrast. So they're either white background, black text, or black background with white text. That's the easiest thing to read. I also try to have high contrast visuals. Usually that means they have a transparent background as well. I also use an accessible typeface. So this typeface is especially designed for people with learning disabilities. Fonts like Comic Sans are also very accessible for people to read. And I also, when most of my students are learning on phones, and I'll demonstrate this today, I change the orientation of my slides to be shaped like a phone screen so that what I'm doing is not shrunk down to fit inside their phone. Instead, it's oriented to fit the shape of their device. And you'll see this later. I try to give clear instructions. And for pre-literate learners, what this means is I use icons. You're actually learning with some of my icons today. Right now, we're reading, but we also might be listening, watching a video, speaking, talking in a group, writing, or typing. So anytime I show an image, I show them what we're supposed to do with it. And this really does help orient my learners around the direction of the lesson. And let's see, what else? Oh, we get active. We do total physical response as much as possible. I had a total physical response warm-up that was the same every single day when I was teaching my pre-literate learners. And by the end of the term, they were able to name all of the body parts we were using and predict a lot of the things that I was going to say. And finally, I use music. Obviously, a lot of your students may be used to learning through music already. So I would teach things like the days of the week and other vocabulary through exposure to songs. And it's especially good if you can find songs that are, related to the music of their culture. I found when I was working with students from Congo, some really great YouTube channels that were to help the African diaspora learn English, but also use African music. So I had a lot of Afro beats, days of the week, months of the year, songs, and it was a lot of fun and they really enjoyed it. Okay, so now I want to give you a sense of some of the activities I might use in a lesson with pre-literate learners online. Also, I know I'm going kind of fast. I'm sorry, we have limited time today. So I'm not going to walk you through my opening routine. We're not going to review all of the vocab, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a sense of some of the things we might do. So I hope you're ready because you get to participate now. So we're going to learn about food today. Who can tell me, what is this? What is this?
This is banana.
Banana. Good. Banana.
Banana.
Beautiful. I like banana. Do you like bananas?
Yes.
I like banana.
I love bananas. Let's do again. Banana.
Banana.
What is this?
This is a
Pear. Good job. I like pears. Do you like pears?
Yes, I do.
I love
Good. Pears. Let's do one more. What is this?
pineapple.
Banana.
That's difficult.
Peanut.
Pineapple. Pineapple. Good. Do you like pineapple?
Yes, I do.
I do not
Of
like
course.
pineapple.
Me too.
My students like pineapple. Good job. So I would continue showing the different vocabulary that we have for the day. We have some fruit today, and we also have some instructions like wash, peel, cut, and eat. After that, there are a few different ways I might review the vocabulary, but I'd like to show you one way in particular that's been really useful for my pre-literate adults. So I use my phone as a document camera. I put it on a shelf above my notebook. I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. And this way, they're not seeing me write on an iPad or type on a screen share. They're learning how to hold their pencil. So hello, this is my desk. This is my notebook. And I could show them, I'd say, class, do we hold like this? Do we hold our pencil like this? No.
Oh,
No. Do we hold our pencil like this?
No.
neither.
Do we hold our pencil like this?
Almost.
Yes.
Almost. Oh, maybe we have to do it like this.
Yes.
Okay, so there are a few different activities I would do with the notebook in front of me. I might draw something and say, what is this? What is this?
Moon.
It looks like a banana.
Or a banana.
Moon or
And I would show
banana.
them, how do we write the letters? So during a lot of our letter sound drills, I would show them, we start from the top, ba, na. So my students would have the same type of notebook as me. And after they have some time to practice writing themselves, they would hold it up to the screen. You have the option of asking your students to take a photo and send it to you. But what I found in my experience was that it was very difficult for a lot of my students to take images and like to take pictures on their phone. Some of them would say, teacher, I don't know how to take a picture. So what was a little easier was just holding it up to the screen, teaching them the words up, down, left and right. So I could turn off my screen share and take a look. I have a lot of different lessons in here that I've used in the past. You can see we've done lots of things in the notebooks. This is how they learned to write their names. This is how they learned to write their phone numbers and their addresses. So I feel really strongly that the document camera is a great tool. And if you're interested, I'll put my email up at the end. I can send you a tutorial on how to do it. It's actually like really easy. I thought it would be hard, but it's not. So then the final thing that I encourage my students to do and would often be a culminating project is we might use the language experience approach to make a story out of some of the things that we learned. So for example, with this unit, I asked them what they like to cook, and I wrote down all the things they said about how to cook their favorite dish. And I used a free website called Book Creator to create a story. So this is a real book that I made with my class called Cooking Fish. And if you press on the audio button here, I will read the story to you. So you can view this on a phone, you can view this on a computer, and I picked images to go with each line they said. So they said, I like to cook fish, I wash the fish, I cut the fish, I put the fish in a pot with soup, I cook the fish on the stove, I add tomatoes, I add lemon, I add onions, I add celery, I add peppers, I add spinach, and I eat the food. My students really enjoyed making this book together. A lot of them told me that they read it with their children, and they said, you know, Mommy wrote this book. So it was a really good experience. I highly encourage you guys to utilize that approach when you can. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, but I had to get through this quickly because we don't have a lot of time today. There are also a lot of other practical approaches I might use. I know it was mentioned earlier to be very dramatic and diffusive. That is definitely a big part. I use things in my house and I show them things like medicine bottles and food in my kitchen. but we don't have time. What I want to hear is more about you. So in groups again, I want to know if there were strategies that you noticed today that you may want to adapt for your own classroom. I'm going to put that question in the chat as well. What strategies did you notice that you may want to adapt for your own classroom? So I'll give you 5 minutes in your breakout rooms to discuss this, and then I'll come back and I can answer any questions that you may have come up with while you were meeting. Any questions before we do this? No questions. Okay. So I'm gonna put you into groups and we'll get started. Good luck. And we can pause the recording again, I believe. Okay, everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a good time processing the
back.
that I was able to show you in the demonstration. I know that we don't have enough time for everything. Mac, how much time do we have for questions? You're on mute.
So we usually try to finish and wrap up everything in 1 hour's time. But this is so interesting. I feel like going on this one.
Well, we have time.
Yeah, we still have 15 to 20.
I tried to keep it 10 to 15 minutes long,
yes.
like you said.
Yeah,
so I think we have some time to answer questions. If folks have questions, I'm happy to respond. And also some of my colleagues are here who can also offer a lot of insight. So if you feel like you have something to share, you can jump in.
I want to start off by sharing one of my students' view in the breakout room. And my student was saying we can also include games.
Yes.
And teach language through games. That is it. Where is the smiler? Where is he? Yeah. So he was suggesting this. I thought that I should bring it to the main room discussion. So
yes, I love playing games with my students. We play a lot of games. I'll show you my favorite game website. It's called Bamboozle. It's totally free. And let's find some fun things I did. So we were talking about problems in our apartments so we could learn how to talk to our landlords. So when I play this game, it gives them a board. I have my students pick a number. And then, for example, what is the problem? And then it's a review of our vocabulary. They say there are cockroaches. So we play a lot of games like that. We'd also play a lot of music-based games too. And I can put a link to that in the email that I sent to Rob afterwards.
Yeah. Eliana, there is another student.
Yeah, please go ahead. Unmute, as we say in my class. Make sure you unmute and ask your question.
So, hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Eliana for this amazing session. I really enjoyed it. I learned plenty of things. I think everything's clear, but I just want to say something about pre-literate people. In our country, most of pre-literate people does not even know what is internet, and that leads me to a question like, how could we deal with those kind of people? And yeah, that's the question.
That is a great question. And obviously, are you from Madagascar?
Exactly.
Okay, so obviously in Madagascar, it will be a little different than in the United States. But this was a very big problem in the United States when the coronavirus began and many schools had to transition to being online. Some people, they never came to school again. some people, their children helped them, and we had to speak to children in order to get their parents online. Now we have a little bit more of a system, and I'm lucky. I work somewhere where there are lots of people who can help you. So we have people go to individuals' houses and teach them how to use Zoom. I've worked at places where they can give computers, they can give Wi-Fi hotspots. And I also find lots of videos in people's native languages that show them how to use Zoom or how to use the internet. Unfortunately, there is no one perfect answer because everywhere will be different and everyone has different needs. But what I believe is that there just needs to be a lot of support to teach people how to use these tools and to make sure that they have access to them. I see there's another question.
In fact, it is not a question, but just a kind of request. Like, I really like music, and I'm very interested in the way how you teach through music.
Okay, I can share a little bit about that. So at the beginning, I mentioned I had a student who she had no spoken English. She was a grandparent in the United States who was very isolated, and she didn't know how to use Zoom. She didn't know how to take a picture. And for the first 2 weeks of class, she repeated every single thing I said. So I would say hello, and she would say hello. I would say, my name is Eliana, and she would say, my name is Eliana. And it was really, really difficult to help her understand because she didn't have any foundation. So I talked to some friends of mine who were teachers, and I brought in a song, and the song was called What Is Your Name? And I had a ukulele. I don't have it now, but the students kind of taught each other when I showed them how to sing the song. So I would basically go, what is your name? And eventually I would teach them. We would say, what is your name? My name is Eliana. What is your name? And we turned it into a game for everybody. So we would go around. I mean, on Zoom, it can be a little awkward to do singing. I would have to call on people. So that's one way. That's at the very beginner level. But I also mentioned earlier that I used music to teach other vocabulary, like the days of the week. So let me see if I can find the video. Days of the week. The song that I used to teach my students from Congo the days of the week. So I found a YouTube channel that was specifically to help children learn Swahili and English at the same time. And we listened to this song every class at the beginning when I asked them, what is today? So let me share this with you guys. Oh, Bino and Fino, for anybody who knows Bino and Fino. Bino and Fino rocks.
Fino, do you know the days of the week?
Yes!
Okay, we're going to make it a song and sing it together. Are you ready?
Yes!
Do you know the days of the week? 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 Let's go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know the days of the week.
So that's just a little taste. It goes longer. I hope that helps to answer your question. I really encourage you to find songs or make songs up if the song doesn't exist.
Very good.
Yeah, that is absolutely adorable.
It's really, I know all the words. I sing it all the time.
Absolutely.
Gets in your head after you listen to it every day. Are there any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Mirani. And remember, Mirani, you have to unmute your microphone.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, Eliana.
Thank you.
I loved the song. I loved the melody and the I mean, it's like there's lots of drums and really waking people up. Yes. But I would like to come back to Nula Laina's question when he asked about how, if if it is in a context where we do not have, where adult people are not familiar with virtual education. And I would like to tell a little bit about an experience that we lived during the COVID lockdowns when we wanted to continue the connection between the students and the teacher during the lockdowns. The decision was very difficult to take, like how, with which means are we going to get in touch with the students? Many people said that it will not be possible because students are in very remote places. They are in cut from communication. They cannot open Facebook pages, etc., etc. We were discouraged, but when we checked, we were happily surprised to see that 9900% of the students were connected on Facebook wherever they were. So this is to say that sometimes we think that people will not be able to connect or are not connected because they are very far, or because they are adults, or because they are preliterate, etc. But most of the time when we check, we find out that it's the contrary. So sometimes there's a necessity to check and to try, and not be like stopped by this idea. So the idea was proved to be false. So we tried, we moved, and we could start teaching online, starting with Facebook. And now we have a Zoom platform, and now we have a virtual educator with Mac. And I think we have moved with this process, whereas when at the beginning we thought that it would not be possible. So what I wanted to say is like, keep the small hope. Sometimes it beams and sometimes it can help move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And you raise a really important point that sometimes we think students are not connected, but they actually are. So for example, I communicate with my students all on WhatsApp. They love WhatsApp. I put my slides in WhatsApp, videos in WhatsApp. For my students who cannot read and write, I send them my voice in WhatsApp, and they love it so much, and they send their pictures in WhatsApp. And if they could not use Zoom, I would do WhatsApp video, right? WhatsApp video is not perfect, but it is another way to talk to your students. I like that you said, do not assume, it's kind of related to the deficiency mindset, but a little different. You don't want to think about what is impossible. You want to think about what is possible. You don't want to think about what students lack. You want to think about students' strengths and their abilities. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question. Can you hear me, Elena?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, thank you for bringing this interesting topic to us in your presentations. Wonderful. I think your students must love you. That's my takeaway from this, because you just seem just so much fun. And I'm thinking, if I were teaching this population, I definitely would slow down my English. Because I realized this, and I love the use of icons, with the mute and not mute. I use in Zoom with my students, I use chat. Even today, it was hard to hear the technology. So we're using chat. I was wondering, with students who don't have a writing ability or don't write much, well, is there a chat in WhatsApp or on Zoom? Is there any way that you would use it for this level of English ability?
That's a great question. And thank you so much for saying all that stuff. Before I answer, I do want to highlight that Valerie sent an excellent resource in the chat about, they were pointing out the way that I was pointing to my mouth. So there are some resources related to pronunciation in the chat that are really excellent. So with my pre-literate learners, I tried to use the chat in Zoom approximately one time, and it did not go well, and I immediately abandoned it. However, with WhatsApp, we would often take pictures of what we wrote and send it there. And that was something that worked really well for them. And I could also draw on their pictures to correct it if they spelled something wrong or they wrote a letter like flipped around in a way that they couldn't understand. Maybe when I was explaining it, if I say your B is backwards, they might not understand what I mean. But if I'm able to draw it for them, then they can understand what I'm trying to say. So, and I also, as I said, I use the voice memos a lot. I would say, this weekend, try to read the signs in the grocery store. They wouldn't understand that if I sent that as a written assignment, but they might understand that if I read to them. But they became a little more bold using those tools as the time went on together. And one more thing that I will say, I think this might not be a message that is very shocking to the people in the room, but maybe if you're watching this as a recording, I really, really challenge you to join calls like Zoom calls on your phone and to see how it looks when you're on your phone instead of on the computer, because then you'll understand what your students might be struggling with. I was observing a class the other day where a student kept saying, I can't see, I can hear you, but I can't see. And in all likelihood, she had swiped to the side and she could only see her other students, but she couldn't see what the teacher was projecting. So getting an understanding of the student view as it differs from the teacher view is really important. Maybe your face is going to be covering the icons and you don't even know it because you're doing it on a computer. And then when you check it on your phone, you can see. So that kind of addressed your question and also addressed other things, but I hope it's useful.
Yes, very.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
No.
Okay.
If you don't have a question, you can also share your comments, observations. How did you like it? Feel free. This is your time, my dear students, colleagues, friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for sharing the email.
I put my email in the
Yes.
chat. If there's anything that you saw today that you'd really like access to, whether that's a tutorial on how to use your phone as a document camera, access to that awesome Days of the Week song, anything else,
Yeah.
I'm happy. Just shoot me an email. Tell me what you need. I'm happy to send it to you. But this will also be recorded and put online.
Yeah.
So you can watch
Yeah.
it again as many
Yeah.
times as you want.
Okay, then I would like to thank everybody for joining this wonderful interactive session. I want to keep a big smile on my face from today on. And there are a lot of things that we have learned. I personally have learned about this digital camera. I'm going to ask her, and doing a book together with your students. So this has been a fascinating conversation. The wisdom you guys have shared is tremendous. And one of them that's going to be my takeaway as well is that do not assume, do things. Mirini, that was great, powerful. And my students, integration of games that you brought it up. Celia, that we should integrate, and Eliana, I've been doing all of that. So I totally agree with my colleague Joanna Lebov that your student must love you a lot. They must, you're a great teacher. We can see that.
Thank you.
So thanks for sharing the energy. Thanks for sharing the pedagogy and the approach that you follow. That's truly an inspirational is the word that recurs to me. I don't want to analyze linguistically just to brag about my knowledge, but one last word, because these are undergrad students. So if you want to see integration of pronunciation, spelling, syntax, meaning, this is the presentation. Always remember, that's the way she's doing it. So she's integrating all language elements and bringing it meaning. So So that's beautiful. That's the word that I want to say about this presentation. I want to thank everybody, and in particular, the presenter today for doing such a wonderful job for all of us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you so much to everybody who's joining from Madagascar. I never thought that I would meet anybody from Madagascar, let alone almost 40 people. So thank you so much for coming and listening to me. Maybe someday I'll meet all of you overseas.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. I will
Thank you.
close. I will close the meeting now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
you,
Goodbye.
Goodbye.